Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. on March the 6th, and the Bel Air Beach City Council meeting will now come to order. We're going to begin this meeting with an invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. This month, I will be doing the invocation. Please join me in prayer. Our Lord in heaven, we thank you for blessing us with this beautiful city that we are able to call our home. We also thank you for blessing our city with the wonderful residents that live within and for the talented leaders who selflessly give their time and energy to the city of Bel Air Beach. This evening, Lord, we pray for a productive council meeting that will lead to positive outcomes, not only for our community, but also for those who serve within. For it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Gentry, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Belinda Livingstone.
Present.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Zabel.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Shirley.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Present.
City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present.
And Councilmember Leslie Notero was unable to attend.
Thank you, Patty. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Frank Bankert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike Zabel. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Now we move to citizens' comments. If any citizen would like to address the council about a topic not already on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. We ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If any council members would like to respond to the citizens' comments, please hold your responses until we reach council comments at the end of the meeting. Before I call on anyone in the audience, I already have one card from Miss Vicki Dwyer from 111 14th Street. Please step up to the podium. And it's my understanding that Debbie Mall has yielded her 3 minutes also.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, Mayor Gaddis, councilmen and women. Thank you for serving our community. My name is Vicki Dwyer, and my husband Russ, our Marine son Peter, and I live on 14th Street. We moved here just 1 year ago and mostly love our community. I'm here today to address a topic from the February 25th email where Councilman Lloyd Roberts is looking for solutions to traffic on the Gulf and Causeway two-way turn. His proposed idea is to remove the 2 lanes turning left onto the causeway, restore the blinking yellow light, use the 2 right lanes to proceed straight. The left outer lane will be the only turn lane onto the causeway, remove the existing island and palm tree, but the crosswalk would remain. The existing center merge will feed the left-hand turn lane, supposedly ensuring that north-south traffic is not affected. With the proposed changes, 170 or more driving residents from the 85 houses on 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th streets will be affected. After living here for a year, I see these traffic patterns because I drive in and around them multiple times a day, and I use the crosswalk on a regular basis. The amount of traffic turning left to the causeway always far outweighs the traffic going straight. What would be the purpose of creating 2 lanes to go straight toward Indian Rocks when this is not the traffic problem and we're just quickly into 1 lane anyway? As I dissect this proposal, I will agree that a blinking yellow light turning left is long overdue. The rest I am completely in disagreement with. As a resident of that immediate area, I can attest that there is always a backup of traffic turning left on the causeway during the heavier traffic times. But cars are able to condense into the 2 turn lanes and then make the turn. Having a flashing yellow light will absolutely allow them to keep moving. Currently, to turn left, I have to sneak out into traffic and wait in the center lane until there is an opening or the traffic clears up. With the proposed changes, that center lane will not be available to any of us on those streets for this purpose, making it very difficult to turn left because of the fact that there is still constant traffic coming from the south, whether it be bridge traffic or Indian Rocks traffic. Cars that are coming from either direction really slow down for cars pulling out. It would be much more difficult to get into that turn lane because no one is going to let us cut in. It's difficult to cross through that single long lane of cars to get to the far lane to cross toward Indian Rocks. Removing the island and the beautiful palm tree would definitely take away a part of the charm of Bel Air Beach and would absolutely create a greater problem with pedestrian crossing. Currently, it is still not safe to cross toward the beach because cars in general do not pay attention, and the flashing yellow lights aren't bright enough to stop the cars, as evidenced by cars still running through flashing lights when we cross. By removing the island and changing 2 lanes to 3 lanes of traffic will only make crossing a greater safety issue. We can all predict that natural response for drivers to speed up in order to make that light, since there's only 1 lane, and we won't be paying attention to late flashing lights for the pedestrian crossing. After talking with many neighbors within the community, no one can understand why this change would be made. Moving forward with this proposal would be a mistake and a complete disservice to the surrounding residents and will highly restrict our ability to get out of our streets. The only part I support is the left turn arrow to a flashing yellow. As I close, I would strongly encourage this council to maintain a focus on our community to make improvements that centers on the needs and the conveniences for us, the taxpaying residents of Bel Air Beach, and to be careful of changing or fixing things to accommodate the traffic increases from visitors and tourists. As long as we are a thoroughfare for tourists, we will always have heavy traffic, which can never be fixed with these proposed changes. It will only cripple a portion of our own community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. Yes. Please come up and give us your name and your address.
My name is Kathleen Glazer and I live on 21st Street, 106. Tonight I wish to engage the City Council on 2 items of concern to me. Both deal with disability accommodation. I would like the city to relook the bridge connection from Gulf Boulevard and the beach just north of the Bel Air Beach Motel. I brought this up to a council member last year and have heard nothing. Perhaps together you can come up with a plan that doesn't exclude the handicapped living close by from using this path to the beach. This relatively new bridge structure does not meet the requirements of the disabled residents near its location. Last year, at the end of the summer, my son and my handicapped grandson took the bridge to the beach. My grandson rides in a canvas wagon as he is unable to walk and his motor skills on his right side are poor. My son and grandson reached the edge of the bridge where it meets the beach, and because of a poor design of the bridge, the wagon tipped over. My grandson and son were tossed to the ground. My son fell trying to stop the wagon from overturning. Soon after, my son tried it again, approaching the beach at a different angle, and once again, the wagon was tossed and my handicapped grandson was tossed with his dad onto the beach. My grandson is now afraid to get to the beach using this path. I walked the bridge to see what the problem was, and as a disabled veteran, I found it challenging to walk up the bridge and down, especially when it's sandy. The handrail is too wide to get a grip, and I was afraid I was going to slip and fall. The second disability accommodation I would like to bring to your attention is that my grandson is learning to walk with a small walker. And since we have no sidewalks, he walks in the street. I would like to see if the city can put up traffic signs or warning drivers to be aware there's a small disabled child on 21st Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glazer. Yes, John Hansick.
John Hansick, 22nd Street. I'd like to speak to Councilman Zabel's suggestion or thoughts on this traffic issue. For historical purposes, when we moved here in 2015, there was only one single left turn lane with a flashing yellow light. Being as how I've been involved in safety in my military career, and I look at what we have there, proximity of that crosswalk to this traffic light did not make sense, only because there's a parking lot over there. The councilman suggested that the island go away and leave the crosswalk. You're still, irregardless, going to have traffic jammed up, no matter how many left turn lanes you have. And again, previous administrations, for historical purposes, have attempted to work with the city of Clearwater Beach to no avail. We are, because of their problem and that rotary, we're the default to get to the beaches. I don't know what the solution is, but if I were in a position to help make decisions, I'd take the crosswalk and the median out altogether. Traffic being what it is, I understand. It can be backed up all the way to 22nd Street. Unfortunately, we've learned in the time we've been here, we get our stuff done Monday through Friday and limit any vehicular movement on the weekends, only because you can't get in or get up back on the Gulf Boulevard. And even when my wife and I walk to the beach over there by the motel, it's next to impossible for traffic to yield 3 lanes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick. Yes, sir, Mr. Mall.
Hi, everybody. Roger Mall, 115 Causeway Boulevard, right across the street. I just learned about this island proposal to banish it. So I thought, like the previous gentleman, to give a little historic perspective. Originally, when I came, it was over 20 years ago that we moved into the community. And at that time, basically, anybody who tried to cross Gulf Boulevard was a target, because the same traffic that you see now was there without any kind of controls. And especially since this first beach access is so close to the turn, people would take that turn and then just fire up. And so when they put in the 2 islands, that basically helps solve that problem because of the flashing lights. Now, with the flashing lights, I think they'd be more effective if we change the color, just because every construction truck in the area has amber lights. But, you know, for you guys, I can see where it's frustrating for the people who live farther north, trying to get to that light. Whoever it was when they made the double turn lanes that came up with the idea that it would be a left turn only, that was, I think, a poor decision, because the poor people that are north of the causeway, you have to wait forever because you can't turn when there's no traffic coming the other way. So doing the flashing light would make a huge difference. And I see that as really being the only remedy for the people turning left, because if you take out those islands, what had happened before they had the islands in is not only were they rushing and not paying attention to our citizens, but it backed all the way up. Even during spring break weekends, it almost went all the way to Clearwater. So that would affect everybody getting out onto Gulf Boulevard. And we're basically trapped inside our community because people won't let us in order to get out to Gulf Boulevard. So I would suggest that you rethink taking out those islands, just because I remember the headaches that we had before we put them in, and the downgrading of safety that was there by not having those islands. So I would suggest that we keep the islands and maybe even put one farther down, so that the people that are at the north side of the city can get out when the people trying to get to Clearwater Beach make it so that you can't get by. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mall. Anyone else? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Tammy Lavenda, 97 Harbor Drive. I'm here tonight just to give a couple of save the dates for the new Bel Air Beach Community Foundation, our new nonprofit that we started in November. A quick save the date for our spring fundraiser, the Earth Day Sunset Social on April 22nd from 6 to 9 p.m. You can see our website for more details, belleairbeachcommunityfoundation.org. And we just like to thank in advance our sponsors. We now have Duke Energy, Waste Management, and Rita Swope from Century 21 as our sponsors. We have many in-kind sponsors that have donated great gifts for our raffle. And I'd like to thank in advance the volunteers that we have. We do need a couple of more. So if you're interested in volunteering for just maybe an hour at the event, please reach out to one of us, either Wendy Gaddis, Nicole, or myself. The next save the date is April 15th, which is our next bridge cleanup. We adopted the bridge through Keep Pinellas Beautiful. So if you're interested in that, it's from 9 till 11. I'd like to say a quick thank you to everyone who donated to our local Animals in Need in the month of February. They greatly appreciated it, and so did we. And then I'm going to switch gears real quick and put my Park and Rec Board hat on and say, if you like the yoga classes that we're currently doing on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, a Tuesday class was just added in the building. And then if you've seen them, we have the embroidered Bel Air Beach fanny packs. We only have 3 left, and we're probably not getting any more. So if you're interested in one of those, please make sure that you stop by City Hall. And we did get new embroidered hand towels in. They were out of stock for a while. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lavenda. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Randy Levis, 13th Street. I think the idea about removing the palm trees in the island between 12th and 13th is really a terrible idea. There's nonstop traffic going northbound to Clearwater. I live on 13th and we can't get out. It's so bad for the people on 12th that they loop around and come out on 13th just to give them a little bit better of a shot. Okay. I sent an email last week extensively detailing a lot of issues with this plan. I don't know who saw the email or the video. I took a video out on the street of all the traffic. I don't know if anybody saw that. I saw the video either. I can't ask here because you don't know all the questions. A number of months ago, I came here asking about 3 more benches at the 12th Street access. Like we used to have 6. Now they're down to 3. They're nicer now, but they're down to 3. And cleaning up the real high weeds that were blocking one of the southmost bench and getting a bike rack so the bikers don't chain their bikes to the benches that we have. So at least we could sit there. Kyle, you did a great job on trimming those weeds, getting those weeds stripped up. So I thank you. I appreciate that. I have no idea on status of getting more benches or a bike rack, and I can't ask now. I'll reiterate again that this policy of not taking any questions from the public I think is really messed up. You can say, why don't you email your questions in? I did last week regarding my issues, my concerns about this crossway and taking that island down. No one responded. So I have no idea where your head is with that, if anybody even saw it or they care. Okay. I can't always make it here during the day to meet with Mike Zabel during his open office hours. So I get no answers. I understand your concerns about things getting out of hand like they did it maybe in the past. But there's better ways to deal with things than refusing to answer questions from the constituents, the public that you're here to serve. I like to say Bel Air Beach has implemented the Wawa management technique. Okay, I go to Wawa all the time. I used to go with my wife for breakfast and lunch, and they have tables. We could sit out there and enjoy our lunch and breakfast and whatever. Wawa had a real big issue on Missouri Avenue with all the homeless coming from all over the place, taking up those tables. So the Wawa management decided they get rid of 2/3 of the tables. That way the homeless won't have anywhere to sit. Okay, so I think there's other ways to deal with unruly people or people that are, out of line or asking crazy questions or doing something, but just to say that you're not taking any questions, where's the public to go to get answers to these questions, other than trying to squeeze in a date with Mike, the thing, or sending in an email that you don't know you're gonna get answered. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Lovett. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Good evening, Jennifer Pope, 523 Belle Isle. I actually, for the first time, just learned I can't ask questions, so I do not have anything prepared. But what I wanted to talk about is the ordinance that you are reading for the second time today around setbacks. I wanted to get a better understanding of why we have arbitrarily chosen plots and
I'm
land.
sorry. That is one of our agenda items, and I'm going to let you continue, but normally if there's an agenda item, we give you the opportunity to speak while we're discussing it.
Okay, then we can,
So you can continue now, or you can continue during that agenda item. It may serve you better if you wait until then.
absolutely. I definitely will wait. My understanding is that you were just going to read the title of it and vote. So if we're going to actually have discussion on it, I'd be happy to wait.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Ken Blanch's 1021 Palm Drive right over here on the causeway. As far as removing the island, I just wanted to bring up some more of the safety issues with that. That is my way of getting over to the beach because I live right here on the causeway. So what I have found, if that walk is taken away, is that when I go across the street and I'm at the light and I go to walk across the street there, all the people that are turning right there that have a right turn on red, they're not paying any attention to the crosswalk. They're not paying any attention to that little light that says I'm able to walk. They're looking to the left to see if there's any cars coming. I've almost got hit probably 2-3 times after the light had changed, walking out to cross the street at that light. I'm talking the traffic light. So if we remove the crosswalk, it's, that's crazy. So removing the crosswalk, I think, should not even be on the agenda. Removing the island also, I believe, is a bad idea because the island actually triggers people to see that there is a crosswalk. And I've almost got hit a few times, even walking across the island with the lights flashing. I totally will sit and wait and make sure that the car is slowing down because the cars, they tend to not even slow down unless somebody's standing in the middle of the road. So just wanted to make that safety issue brought up. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Oh, all right. Citizen comments are closed. All right, now we are on to item number 3. This is a presentation, the Pinellas County Sewer Rehabilitation Project. Yes, sir. Please come on up and introduce yourself.
Mayor and council member, my name is Dennis Simpson. I'm at Pinellas County Utilities Engineering Division, and I'm in charge of the horizontal assets. And the lining projects are under my jurisdiction. I have here Joe Boggs, he's with Public Works Inspection and he's in charge of inspection, and also have inliner contractor, and his name is John Sutherman. Cured in place lining contract, gravity sewer is a trench-less technology, and it's basically for rehabilitating deteriorating gravity sewers, and that is done by lining. And what is they do is basically they take a lining thing and put into the pipe, and by air, steam, and ultraviolet light. They expand the lining and therefore stop the filter infiltration of water into the sewer. Presently, we have a contract which is under construction here in Bel Air Beach. And from what I understand, there were some issues, and I'm here to basically respond to those issues.
Sure. What would you like to review the issues, the complaints that, or City Manager Riefler, would you like to explain what the issues are?
Right.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Mayor. I welcomed out Pinellas County Utilities because they got underway with the project he's referring to, which is the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project. Who's the contractors in Liner Solutions, and we did not have any knowledge of this project, which is, you know, it's going to be a couple months long, spanning the city. When I first found out about it, I didn't know. I heard about it happening on Fifth Street, and I started trying to contact the county to find out the extent of the project. Turns out it was pretty much the whole city. So since then, I've been in contact with the county, and they've provided continuing information to me, which has been helpful. I guess at some point, we just kind of dropped the ball on notifying the city that this was coming up. And I covered with the county out, you know, how important it is for us to know, because the citizens will call us first to find out what's going on. So I then, since being in contact with the county, asked if they could come out to this meeting and just kind of go over the project and address any concerns that the citizens might have due to the scope of the project.
And I guess the biggest concern was, why weren't we notified? And I understand that door tags went out, but
Right.
it was the day before the project. And I think many people were caught off guard. And there were also some overflows where they just were unaware of the project completely, weren't at home, and came home to a big mess.
Yes, yes, we normally wouldn't notify, but we have decided that on large projects like this, because I think we're doing about 60 to 70% of the gravity sewers in Bel Air Beach. So for a project this size, I think we're gonna, from here on, notify the city to let them know that we're coming. Normally, what happens is that the project gets bid, it gets awarded, and then when the construction start, they would do cleaning. At that time, we would not notify the residents, but before they do the lining, because with the lining, they're basically gonna be blocking the lateral flows into the line. And that's usually for a segment, say 400 feet, it only takes about a day of work. So they notified 24 hours before by putting door hangers on the residents to let them know that they're going to be doing the lining in that segment. And as they progress, they'll do more door hangers.
Have you installed any linings yet in Bel Air Beach, or are you only doing testing and
Ask.
Yes, sir. As of right now, we're
I'm
about
sorry, sir, for the record, could you please state your name?
Joe Boggs with Pinellas County Construction Administration.
All right.
So at this point so far, we have roughly about 80 lines left to line. We started out with 132, I believe. So we still have 80 more to go. We're trying. I understand that Councilwoman, she was affected by it, and I apologize about that. That is from cleaning the line. And like Dennis was saying, when we line, that's when the notices go out, because your sewage is actually being backed up. So the more water you use, the more chance it's going to flow back into your house. And we've also learned that if you give out a notice a week ahead of time, people forget about it. 72 hours, people forget about it. So normally what they do is on Friday, They put out Monday's notices. Monday, they'll do Tuesday, Wednesday notices, about 48 hours is what they've been doing. And then, so Wednesday, Tuesday, they'll do Thursday, Friday notices. And then again, like on Thursday, they'll go back and do Friday's notices again, because it was more than 48 hours. We try to keep it around 48 hours. I don't like 24 because that is a short notice. Some people, they're like, oh, I had big plans tomorrow, my son's birthday party. They don't work on the weekends, but you never know who's doing what during the week. And especially if something goes wrong, it could be a very late night.
Thank you. Just curious, what's the maximum homes that are that you've encountered that would be impacted during one of these cleanings or linings?
It's really hard to say because some of your runs might be a 200-foot line segment. Some of them might be a 400-foot. Depending on how many homes, how big your lots are, and you might only have, well, some of the runs here that we've done, the side street right over here, there's 5 laterals on it. So, that's a 400-foot shot.
And just curious about what's the time span for that one line that you did?
The one right next door right here, what is the name of this street here? Right on the other side of the parking lot.
No.
Cedar.
Cedar. That day there, they was done by 3 o'clock. They started televising at 7 a.m. and they were completely done and gone by 3 o'clock.
Okay, so you came to my street, 22nd Street, and we didn't know if you were complete, if it looked like you were in one hole over here for a while.
That was probably the cleaning crew.
Okay, and then we really just didn't know. We had no clue as to what was going on other than, hey, don't run your water after 7 a.m., something like that. I think that's what the note said. But we really just had no information, and we were a little afraid that we would come home to what Vice Mayor Shirley came home to. So I think, yes, especially if it's possible, it might not be a bad idea just to bang on a door and just say, hey, we're starting or something like that, because I'm sure there's some people that won't even know that tag's on their door.
And that's one thing that we run across too. The gentleman that's here now, his name is Johnny. If you see him out, he's the foreman of Inliner. He's great. Normally when the liner goes in, he will go to each house and say, can I get your phone number so I can put you on a group text and let you know, hey, okay, you're free to use yours. You're free to use yours. You're free to use yours. He does do that. If we're only on a street that's, like over here, Cedar, it's only got 5, he'll just go knock on the door and say, you're free. But when you got, a lot of times they try to do double shots, meaning 800 feet. So you might have 10, 15 services all together. That's when he'll do a group chat with the neighborhood. And then, he's on site, walking back and forth. The guys are on site. My inspector's on site. If you guys ever see, somebody on the street, look for Pinellas County truck. His name is Trevor Logan. He'll be more than happy to answer anything. Get with Kyle. Kyle has my contact information. My phone's always on. I always answer emails. So if anybody's got any questions, just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer anything you got.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have questions from?
I just want to add a couple of things, and that is, I think I voiced my concerns with you over the phone, but we've, the day I came home, you were just cleaning pipes on my street. Had no idea this was happening. There was no notices, no information provided. Came home to an absolute mess because the cleaning just blew through my toilets. I'm sure, and I was not the only person on the street. I'm sure probably several other residents have dealt with the same issue. I called Pinellas County Utilities and was told that you guys were not providing any service out there. There was no construction going on. There was nothing being done. That caused, and what they told me to do was talk to risk management. That was their only answer. They would not even research. I made them check twice with your service technicians to see if they were doing anything out there. Insisted nothing was being done. That concerned me. I called Kyle, because at this point now it's after 5 on his cell phone. I'm sure he's probably home. He had no idea what was going on. I know you own those utility lines, but they run through our city. Any work being done in our city needs to go through our city manager because he's gonna get the first phone call.
Yes, ma'am.
And then all of us will get the call too. And there was no communication with anyone. So that's got to be addressed moving forward. Then as we move forward in this project, you must know today where you're gonna be tomorrow. It would be nice to be able to, for Patty to send an email, at least to our residents to know, hey, we're working on, whatever streets, these 3 streets over the next 3 days, expect to see a door hanger or something so that we're aware of what's happening. Because on my street, I guess, our line's been cleaned. It has not been lined. So I don't know what kind of havoc that's going to cause in my house, but I'm really not happy with the outcome of what happened at my house that day.
No, and like I said, I apologize about that. I was not aware of that day that the cleaning crew was even in the city. I was not informed of that.
Which then creates the other question is, how safe are our utilities? If anyone can come into our city and tap into our lines, how safe is that as a resident? It's not very safe. It causes concern to me.
Yes, it does. But like I said, I was not aware of the cleaning crew even being in Bel Air Bluffs. My understanding, they was in Largo, so that's not my jurisdiction. That's nothing else I can do. As far as the problem with giving you guys the schedule, it's a schedule. It says, okay, we might be. For instance, today, I can't remember what street the guys was on today because we had 2 line crews here today. One of them has an offset joint in the pipe. They wasn't able to work. So I don't know when, if I tell you that it was your street today, and now all of a sudden you come home thinking, oh gosh, it's over with. I don't have to water my bathroom. It's done. Well, nothing happened. So we're going to come back.
But the point was, I said, maybe Patty could send an email. We project to do these streets, watch for a door hanger. You're not going to hang a door hanger unless you're doing the work, right? Or
no, the door hanger was up.
was there too.
When they went and pre-videoed this morning, they found that the pipe was busted. So we could not put a liner in today. So, and sometimes, when the truck comes, the liner that you were supposed to do today might be on the very bottom. Those guys aren't going to dig through 2,000 feet of liner to get that one off.
I'm a contractor. I find it incredible that your subcontractor can't do a better job communicating with our residents. And I'll just say, you need to get them in line and communicate better.
No problem.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
You're just, if I understand correctly, you're just doing this main sewer line. You're not doing the branches from the houses, right?
No.
So how would that back up? I mean, of course, water could back up, but when you're cleaning them, you're using like a sandblasting tool apparatus.
It's a jet nozzle on the end of a hose.
Yes.
And if your Y is on backwards, when they pull back, it will push water up. It will. If the pressure is too high, it'll do the same thing. If you're descaling, which some of these older pipes, they do have buildup on them, they do need to be descaled before we put a liner in. Because if not, you're shrinking the pipe down even smaller. So sometimes you do have to use high pressure. And it happens, I don't like when it happens, but it's a flat tire. It's like a flat tire.
Yeah, I'm just saying the pressure you're using is probably under 160 PSIs, and your branch tailpipe coming off the house has got to be at least 15 to 25 feet. So that extent, I can't see how that's really blowing back into the house.
Don, what are they normally running? Pressure.
600?
Yeah. If it's a straight, a pretty flat lateral, it's going to blow it up there.
Councilmember Bankard, I was home whenever whatever it was that they did on our line, and it made It made the toilets bubble. We heard things in the sink. It was very disturbing.
I believe they did our street already, 8th Street. Did you complete 8th Street yet?
Yes, I believe 8th Street has been lined.
And I don't believe, I think he did a marvelous job. The crew was very professional, out there. They started 3 minutes before 7, which isn't allowed, but that's the only complaint. Yeah, but no, I'm just saying, you guys were very professional. You tied up our street. You didn't even tie up our street. You blocked half the street. And we can always go around 7th Street, but you guys are very professional. You had the cones out and everything like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? If not, I'd like to thank you gentlemen for coming out and answering some questions and trying to clear things up. We look forward to a much brighter outcome going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item 4, we have a presentation from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, beginning with the Law Enforcement Monthly Report.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sergeant Roy Switch with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and tonight I'm presenting the activity for January of 2023. Under the UCR property and person crimes, I'm happy to report there was 0 across the board. So there was no criminal activity in the city that month. However, there were 5 people arrested, and that resulted all from traffic activity. So traffic stops, DUIs, warrant arrests, and some drug paraphernalia. Moving forward for deputy activity, there were a total of 683 events within the city. Leading that, as usual, were the directed patrols and then traffic enforcement. There were no crashes in the city, so I think that should make everybody happy hearing that. And then lastly, there were a combination of 174 citations and warnings issued for the month. And that is all I have.
Council. No? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And I think Deputy Klapka is not here. Mr. Riefler, would you like to give us a summary on the code enforcement report?
Yes, sir, happily. So this is our second time going around with this new format of the code enforcement report. Steve's been working with the template that we put together. And this month we had 51 listings in our report. Some of them were closed out, some of them are still ongoing. Again, I did some pie charts just to show the categories of the violations that are being covered. We also the distribution of the city streets. Our outstanding code violations, we've had some developments. The dangerous structure, we had a hearing at the Board of Adjustments scheduled for March 9th. After the city attorney has been in contact with the attorney representing the resident, it was advised that we postpone to attempt to make a reasonable accommodation for the structure. So it's our intent to work forward to try to come to some kind of something that's acceptable to the city, that is within the law, and we'll give you a follow-up where that goes. We had a hearing since the last meeting on February 23rd for the resident that had some rodent harborage, some overgrowth. So that was issued an order, a fine, and some work's been done on that property. It's not quite done yet. I'm meeting with someone tomorrow to follow up on what still needs to be done. The unpermitted remodel, construction nuisance, it was a roof on Gulf Boulevard. They've actually done work on the roof. Right now, we discovered that they never pulled a permit properly. So we're continuing the follow up on that. That's not closed yet. I did talk because that house is under, it's advertised for sale. There's a title company that has inquired. And I have talked to them to give them an update of where we stand. We have a short-term rental hearing that took place in early February. That was given an, you know, a fine like we typically do with the short-term rentals. And another hearing, which was just recently on March 2nd, for another overgrowth and invasive species. So that was issued an order. We have a fine that will be starting right now. We've been told that it will be contracted to be cleaned up. So.
Council, any questions or comments?
Yeah. Kyle, there was a hearing back in, I believe, September on a tower erected on H Street. That's never been, in my view, in the code enforcement. I mean, there was a fine assessment of $150 a day. I believe he filed for an appeal. I don't see anything in the circuit court filed. I think there was an email sent to Patty that he was filing an appeal. But why isn't that on the code enforcement sheet? Do you know?
I can
Sorry.
explain that procedurally. Procedurally, you're correct that there were code enforcement proceedings in September that an order was issued by the magistrate. The magistrate's decision was not directly appealed, which is why you do not see anything in the circuit court. The decision of the magistrate at the time was that the responding party had to submit a permit application. I believe a preliminary permit application was received and rejected. A second attempt was made, and in response to that second attempt, your city manager found that it was insufficient and did not form a sufficient basis for the relief, if you will, requested in the form of a permit. That is the decision that was appealed, not the magistrate's decision. In the course of after informally declaring a desire to appeal that decision, the party retained legal representation, who is certainly well versed in the matter. I've had a few conversations with their counsel, and we are navigating the legal boundaries around that process and whether or not a permit is a possibility in that context, understanding the limited preemptions provided by federal law and otherwise. So that process is being navigated to put the city on the best footing were there to be a legal challenge, to ensure that all administrative avenues have been addressed sufficiently. And that's where the process stands at this moment. But to your narrower question as to why there's nothing within the circuit court, they did not, the responding party did not appeal the magistrate's decision.
So the magistrate's decision is in effect?
The magistrate's decision was that a permit application need to be submitted, and the parties are working to resolve that submission. Yes, sir.
Okay, but there was $150 fine for each day.
And the magistrate found that the party had complied by making a submission later in the fall.
But I was told that the permit he submitted was deficient.
Which was an administrative decision, but whether or not the magistrate found it sufficient for the purposes of fulfilling the magistrate's requirement is a sort of a separate and distinct analysis.
All right, because let's start from the ground up. Before he put the tower up, he had a pour pad, which violated our setback rules. So why are we catering to a hazardous condition here for now? I guess this tower's been up at least 9 months. And we're approaching another hurricane season. He has done nothing to remove that tower. I get emails, phone calls, addresses every day I walk down that street from the neighbors surrounding that house. How much longer are we going to give this guy another bite of the apple before we do something?
Thank you for your question. I would say your question as phrased presumes a few things, but what I would say to answer your question is as to why are we still engaging in this process, I would say because the law mandates or dictates that we should. And my job is to mitigate the city's risks in their totality, not just from the perceived risks of the neighboring property owners, but also the litigation exposure or legal requirements as set forth by PRB 1 and the other applicable legal provisions. So we're navigating the process as I know you attended that code enforcement proceeding. My argument to the magistrate on behalf of the city was that the property owner was suggesting that our permitting process was a futility and was some kind of charade, if you will, and there was no point in him applying because he would be denied automatically. And my response to that point was, give us an application, give us an opportunity to evaluate it, and we will evaluate it on its own merits. And that's what the parties are going through. His own legal counsel has stated that the permitting submissions can be more detailed and robust, and intends to make a more robust submission for the parties in this case, the city's consideration. And so while it may be while the timing of it may be frustrating, I would say that we are going through the process as it dictates. My added understanding of that is that there's been towers, not necessarily the precise one there, over the past few decades in intervening periods. So this is not the first appearance of this structure, and we are trying to make sure that as we deal with it, we do it prudently.
Well, again, there was no circuit court filing, from what I can find out what you just said.
Confirmed.
Okay, so the 30 days have lapsed 6 months ago. He missed the boat to file an appeal.
Of the magistrate's decision, yes, sir.
Okay, so that decision didn't just say he had to refile for the permit, the way I'm reading it, and then he's off the hook. Second of all, again, that tower is still there.
Correct.
All right, and we're not doing anything about it.
Disagree. I've detailed what we're doing. It may not be a solution to your satisfaction, but as it relates to code enforcement, I work at the direction of the executive of this city, the city manager. I've advised the city manager on our legal solutions, options, and recourses. And as your city attorney, I'm taking the course of action that upon advice, the manager is in agreement with. I don't submit that the current plan of action may satisfy every party, but it is in keeping with the requirements of the Florida statutes, federal guidance, and otherwise in resolving this matter.
Well, you cited a case, and I found this case too, Desposo versus Marion County, and it clearly says in the affirm, the FCC has determined that local governments do not have to make reasonable accommodations for ham radio antenna structures where the structures are prohibited by residential subdivision covenants, conditions, and restrictions, which we restrict. Again, why aren't we pushing this issue?
Mr.
Sir,
Baker,
I don't think that I
I'm
can
gonna
answer
have
you.
to call
I don't think
order.
I can
I'd like
answer
you to
you
lower
with
your voice
satisfaction.
and remain calm, all right?
I can remain calm because I don't live where it's gonna, well, maybe it will fly down my street. But you have 4 residents that are very concerned about this. And they all supported you, Dave. All right? So why aren't we enforcing our laws?
Point of order.
What's the point?
The point is that now you're attacking our mayor.
I'm not attacking our mayor.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm
And we
not.
just-
I agree, point of order, you attacking me by name.
I defer to the presiding officer. I would say only, Member Bankert, I think I've answered your questions. I understand you're not satisfied or in agreement with those answers. I think the holding in Despoto goes a little further than that. And it's not specifically limited, while that quoted language is certainly in there, it's also couched in the other case law and its progeny governing this. You look to these federal guidelines, there's a limited field of case law on this. I've reviewed it. I'm not coming just from a place of, I don't want to get people upset. I'm looking at the case law and trying to I've read the Despoto opinion, the Despoto opinion. I've read, there's two major opinions out of the 5th DCA. There's an opinion, there's a few other opinions that all speak to the notion that a government need not simply yield to any request or any application. You can enforce your codes, but that must be done on an analysis of the particular antenna at issue, especially amateur ham radio, which you cannot prohibit full stop. You have to consider whether those things can be accommodated in keeping with the aesthetic, safety, and other measures. And I'm saying we can't consider that until we have a proper and complete submission that allows for the parties to evaluate that. I'm trying to develop a factual record that the city can stand on. Whether or not you think that's a proper course of action, I understand, but as it relates to code enforcement, I'm working with the official in the city responsible for this.
Sir, I understand what you're saying there, that there's a proper procedure. This is erected. This is already there, okay? If he submitted a permit and it got bounced out and there was nothing done, I'd be 100% agreement with you. But you're telling me I can go build a house, okay, get caught building a house and then say, well, I'll submit a permit at my will.
No, sir, I would submit to you that a house is quite different from an antenna. And the
Well,
way that
it's
these
still a
antennas operate.
violation.
And I completely understand your position, sir, and I'm working through all, I can't change where we are.
At the end of the day, is he going to be fined $150 for every day if he does not?
There's an outstanding fine now for $150 for roughly 9 days. That fine is outstanding. Whether or not that fine is resolved through the process of me working with his legal counsel to mitigate the city's risk and analyze the situation, I can't dispositively say that, nor do I have the authority unilaterally to either impose or remove that fine. There is a fine in place, period, fact, full stop. How that process resolves is ongoing. I had a nearly 90-minute conversation, or roughly almost 75-minute conversation with his attorney just last week at great length, where we talked about the balance of the case law, where the issues go. And generally the parties were in agreement that a permit is necessary, that the city needs to provide its request as to what data is requested. As this is not a common infrastructure, I will tell you that my firm does this, works for municipalities in nearly a dozen municipalities from Port Richey to Holmes Beach. And in speaking with all of my colleagues, ham radio antenna towers are not exactly the most common issue and that you have community to community. We're navigating a very, very niche area of law and trying to make sure that we do so properly as good stewards of the public trust.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. I appreciate it. Mr. Zabel, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I will. It's actually more of an admin. City manager, that's the dangerous structure, I think, number 105. Yes. Listed on the code violations. Okay, so it has been listed there. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
I just want to add that I like the new format. Thank you for your work, Kyle and other council members that helped put this together. And it's so much easier to follow and read. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riefler. All right, we are on to item number 5, which is a presentation from the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. Normally it's Chief Jeff Davidson, but this month we have Assistant Chief Higley.
Good evening. It's Assistant Chief Higley, but that's all right. Good evening, council members, Vice Mayor, Mayor Gaddis. Chief Davidson does send his apologies that he's not here this evening to present to you. However, he is in Tallahassee at the Florida Association of Special Districts annual meeting, where he is taking some classes and learning some additional stuff about special districts so that he can provide the highest level of service that he can to our community partners, including Bel Air Beach. Last month in Bel Air Beach, there were 17 calls for service. There were 3 fire alarms and 13 medical calls and 1 other. 76% of the time, we met our call times for ALS, and 90% of the time, these calls were responded to in 8 minutes or 31 seconds or less. With that being said, last Monday, we had the pleasure on February 27th of having a presentation here at the City Hall, where Chief Davidson presented a proposal that we have submitted to Pinellas County Emergency Services to further improve the services that we provide to the residents of what we consider North Indian Rocks Beach, Bel Air Beach, and the residents of Bel Air Shore. That proposal that we have provided to them would be apply for an additional 2 paramedics and a ambulance transport capable rescue that would. We still have not decided if the engine would move closer to here to our new planned station, or we would put a rescue up here. Many of your folks here talked about the traffic issues, and they have not gotten any better. So when I read to you those times that only 76% that we were making our scene times, that is unacceptable to the district, and we want to make sure that we can get those numbers up to the 90th percentile. And the plan that we have come up with and we have presented will enable us to do so. If you have any questions, we did it for the presentation. It is public records, and I'll leave some cards here. And we can get you that information to the residents of your community so they can kind of be informed. We were all looking for community feedback, and I believe we have some avenues that we can do that. And again, we can provide you that upon request. I'll leave those cards. Following that, there's a process in place. So the next step in that process is called the data-driven focus group. That meeting is on Friday, and I will be again presenting to the fire chiefs and some other interested parties on this committee about our request. And there's about 15 other requests throughout the county that have been put forth, so we all kind of present our case. So the next step in that is if they approve or recommend that it goes forward, there'll be what's called the MSAC, Committee, Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council, which consists of some local political leaders and other interested parties. Those requests will go to that, and they will vet them. And again, they'll move those forward up the chain. And hopefully within the next few months, we'll have an idea of whether this idea and proposal will come to fruition. And again, we hope that the citizens of the Bel Air Beach will fully support that, because I know the end goal is to make sure that we're providing you these fire and EMS services that you pay for every year for us. Over the last couple of weeks, the men and women of our district, we were able to obtain what we call an acquired structure. So if any of goes down to Indian Rocks Beach, 404 Golf River, which is called Golf Towers, and 2 structures next to it are going to be, well, they are pretty much demolished and making room for some new condos. However, we were fortunate enough to have the party representing the owners allow us to train. So how does that benefit you? And these are trainings that we have. We train like we do in real life. So the men and women got to flow water in this mid-rise, high-rise structure. We got to do some firefighter safety and survival and some rescue stuff in a building that's similar to many of that in your community. Obviously, the beach side and not necessarily residential, but it still is great training for our folks. As far as the district is concerned, we've had a couple of vacancies. We've added 2 paramedics to the district. One is a transfer from Seminole Fire Rescue, who has approximately 3 years of service to Pinellas County. He would be put on the truck and right away be able to treat folks. The other one is a transfer from Hillsborough County. There's a several-month process depending on when the classes can get in, that he will be a fully county cleared paramedic. So those folks will be starting by the end of this month, and we're providing services to, again, all of the residents in our fire district. So we're welcome to have 2 paramedics, and it's a very difficult thing right now. Hiring in fire and EMS is a hot topic right now. There's a lack of qualified candidates, and we got, over the last few hirings, we've obtained some stellar men in this case. We had a woman in the last one, but that will be providing the top level of care which you folks have come to expect. Lastly, Kyle and I had a small Hurricane Expo here in this room, and we have gotten back together this year and started planning for what we hope to be a bigger and better and annual event within Bel Air Beach. And I had suggested that actually, since we have other community partners with the town of Indian Shores and the city of Indian Rocks Beach, that maybe we'll make it a district-wide event, and that every year we can rotate it. You folks have been gracious enough to offer up for maybe our next first annual event. So him and I will be working towards getting some speakers and providing them with a more robust event within the community that everybody that we would like to invite, whether they are in our Oak Coast area or Indian Rocks or Indian Shores. So we appreciate you folks allowing us to do that. And as far as the fire district concerns, and that's all that I have for you this evening. Again, I'm gonna leave some cards, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
So do you have any questions? I have one. Actually, it's more of a, can you explain what it is you're asking for the people that did not attend the meeting? And you can make it as brief as possible if you don't mind.
Okay, so briefly for the folks here in the community, when I started for Pinellas Suncoast 17 plus years ago, we always used to respond by our fire engine and well, that's the way we don't have a rescue, but our engine down to the northernmost end of our district. However, that was a disservice to you folks because of the amount of time that it takes for us to get from Indian Rocks Beach to the north end of Bel Air Beach. That finally we went to closest unit dispatch. So unfortunately, for you folks, I would say the majority of the time, you're getting a unit from Clearwater Beach right at Sand Key or Station 43. Yeah, you're getting Largo or Clearwater unit because we do want to provide the highest level of care. And the majority of time in an EMS call, you're going to want closer is better. So what we're planning on doing is, regardless of what happens, we're constructing a new fire station in hopes in northern Indian Rocks Beach. With our projected data, we'll be able to hit the benchmarks set by the county, and we will once again be able to service the residents of Bel Air Beach that pay your tax money to us. So your EMS, as far as EMS goes, you didn't pay our fire tax, and we do, as long as they're available, we do come to those. I just want to let you guys know that, but EMS is paid to the county. We feel as if, since you are our residents, you do support us, you do pay our taxes. We want to make sure that our men and women are responding down here to you folks. So what we've done is, again, every year they open up what's called an enhancement. You can put in for an enhancement, and Chief Davidson has been what I feel a godsend to our fire district, and he's been working hard to provide a higher level of service than we have in the past. So we put in for that enhancement again. Basically, it's 2 paramedics, but it actually turns into about 7 folks because you have to have 2 every day, and we have 3 shifts, and the rescue. So speaking of that, the county is getting busier, the traffic, all that stuff. So we just went on it the other day. It's called 3M. Basically, it's like the world is falling apart. All of the fire department units that have transport capable units are transporting their own patients to the county. This was not like that when I started. It's so busy that the fire department has to take up the slack from the Sunstar units that you have going around the county. And I can tell you the closest unit transport rescue is in Clearwater Beach, Rescue 41, which is downtown Largo, and then the only other one on the beach is in Treasure Island. So adding a transport rescue to our fire district, we believe will benefit not only the folks here, but our partners in Largo and, down south where we need it to be. And it all comes back to being able to be, as helpful as we can to everyone in the community. We're all neighbors, regardless of whether you live in this town or up in Clearwater, over in Largo. We want to make sure that we take care of everybody. So again, we have a lot of more information that I could provide you. We have lots of data and facts and figures and stuff, and we'd be happy to email that stuff out. But we would ask that you email one of us.
And the only other comment that I have, which really I'm looking for a confirmation, is that this plan that you have does not include asking for any more money.
Okay, so no, this would be a completely county funded unit that we're asking for. So again, this is an EMS unit we're asking for. It's 2 paramedics and a transport capable rescue, all out of the existing fund that you folks already pay into. So without getting into some additional specifics, you folks pay a lot of money and you don't necessarily receive all that back. And we just want a little bit of that back to make sure that we can provide, and not only you folks, but the rest of the county, an elevated level of service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one question? Are you asking our residents to request this from the county? Are you asking our residents to reach out to the county to request?
So
I'm kind of confused on what you're asking.
I've submitted the request. However, just like you can email your state senators and say, I support this and I support that, we do have the contact information for these decision makers within the county that we'd be happy to provide to you. I have to be careful what I say at the meeting, I guess, publicly, but please, by all means, if you're interested, we can email you this information and give you a little bit more on that. So we will look basically just say, hey, we really support what Chief Davidson and the Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue District is asking for, and we hope that you strongly consider it.
And I serve on that council, and so I will be speaking that day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now we are on to item number 6. If I could have Councilmember Livingstone join me down front. So it's not uncommon for council members to attend one of the courses offered by the Florida League of Cities. Every once in a while, we get an overachiever. So I have 2 awards for the same person tonight. So the first one is a certificate of completion for the online orientation class for newly elected officials, awarded to the Honorable Belinda Livingstone, council member, City of Bel Air Beach. Congratulations. Okay, and we also have a second one, which is the certificate of completion for, we affectionately call it EMO, but it's the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials. And she completed that in St. Augustine, Florida, January 20th and 21st, 2023. Presented to Belinda Livingstone, council member of City of Bel Air Beach. Congratulations. All right, we are on to agenda item number 7. This is consideration of accepting the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022, and is presented by Saltmarsh, Cleveland, and Gunn Certified Public Accountants. Sir, if you would, please give us your name and then let's hear your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Landers. I'm with Saltmarsh, Cleveland, and Gunn. I want to thank the mayor and the council for the opportunity to once again serve as the audit firm for the city. I want to also thank Kyle for his assistance through the audit process, and a special thanks to Heather and Andrew as well. There's no way the audit process could be completed without all the work that they do. You've been provided a draft presentation of the financial statements. If you took the time to read through that draft, you would notice that there are some pages in there that say this information is not available. That's mainly in the statistical section, and it's also where the GFOA certificate would go. The statistical section information, we have the historical information from 2021 back to 2013, but we do not have the 2022 information yet. Heather has requested that. Most of it is being held up by the county. So once that information is available, we can put that in the report. I point that out because the statistical section of the financial statements isn't covered by our audit opinion. So our obligation is to look at that and make sure that it materially agrees with the financial statements, the basic financial statements of the city. And then if it doesn't agree, then we have to modify our report. I can't imagine that once it's there, that it's not going to agree. The city is going to have to make the decision of how long they want to wait to receive that information before finalizing the audit. There are a couple of options that we can discuss when that time comes. The GFOA submission is the unextended due date is at the end of the month. You can request an application for extension, which the city did do last year at our request because we had staffing issues, not able to meet the timeline for that. But this year it is really just in the GFOA's hands, waiting on them, and we do not have a timeline to understand when they will issue that certificate or if it will be issued. I don't have any reason to think it wouldn't be, but again, we don't have any timeline there. So we have till the end of the month to really make a decision on how the city wants to proceed with that. So that it's not super urgent at the moment, but something that does need to be addressed in the next couple of weeks. So with that, what I've brought to present tonight is the anticipated opinion. I wouldn't expect it to change. So we have the anticipated opinion and the basic financial statements here. I'd like to take the time to just go through these in summary. It's over 100 pages. We're not going to go through it in detail. But the important parts I'll point out. The most important part of the financial statements that I will say is on page 1. This is the opinion. This is the auditor's report. So you have to go through several Roman numerals before you actually get to page 1, about a 1/16 of an inch into it. So on page 1, the second paragraph, we do cut to the chase now. There has been changes in the auditor's report passed down. So we do get to the opinions here at the beginning instead of making you read through 4 pages of auditor's report to get to the opinion. But you'll see that in the second paragraph on page 1, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund of the city as of and for the year ended September 30th, 2022, and the respective changes in financial position and where applicable cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So that's the first opinion that you're concerned with in your financial statements. There's going to be a few more opinions as we get to some more reports towards the back. But before we get there, I'll just point out a few of the financial statement highlights. On page 17, this is the statement of net position. This is what's most comparable to a balance sheet that you would see in a for-profit entity. There is technical statements in here called balance sheet, but they don't necessarily represent what you would see in a for-profit business. So if you're used to looking at for-profit entity financial statements, this is going to be the most comparable. You see that in the middle of the page, and this is as of September 30th, 2022. Total assets of the city were $19,555,795. Total liabilities of the city were $2,667,000, leaving net position of $16,888,000. So of that net position, $6,450,000 of it is unrestricted and $10,438,000 is restricted. A healthy balance sheet. The next page would be the comparable income statement for a for-profit entity, but this is called the statement of activities. It starts with the expenses on the left side and then goes to the program revenues. But really, I'd like to just focus on the bottom numbers. Let's just get to the bottom. You see that the change in net position for the city was a net increase of just under $1 million for the year, $994,000. So that is the third up from the bottom line in the bottom right corner. Again, about $1 million increase year over year from the year before, giving a net position at the end of the year of the $16,888,000. Now, I did mention that there are balance sheets in the statements. The very next page would be considered the balance sheet of the governmental funds. The city has 2 governmental funds, the general fund and the capital projects fund. I'll just point that out that so you understand what is there. The city has two more funds that would be considered proprietary funds or business type funds. The next page I would turn your attention to is page 23. I point this out because most people are very concerned with the budget and budget to actual, and that's what this page is the budget to actual for the general fund. The middle of the page is the final budget. The middle column on the page is the final budget. The column next to the right is the actual, and then the far right column is the difference between the two. So you can see that total revenues were budgeted at about 2.5 million. They came in at a little over 3 million for a favorable variance of just over $500,000. In the middle page of this, or middle part of this page, you can see that total expenditures were budgeted at just over 2 million. They came in at just under 2 million for a favorable variance of $118,000 for a total favorable variance of $625,000 on the year. When you have higher revenues and lower expenses, the favorable variance there. I'll point out that that line where the favorable variance of 625 is shown. It currently says deficiency of revenues over expense or under expenses. That needs to be changed to excess of revenues under or over excess of revenues over expenses. It was net income. So just need to revise that wording. I mentioned this, the city has two additional funds on the next page. That's this is the statement of net position for the proprietary funds. That's the Stormwater Fund and the Marina Fund. You can see that the assets for those two funds combined were 2.1 million, and the total net position is also 2.1 million, rounding. So there's very few liabilities in those two funds. And that's on page 24. The next page that I would point to is page 25. This is the statement of revenues and expenses and changes in net position for the proprietary funds. It's basically the income statement equivalent for those two funds. You see that the charges for services in the Stormwater Fund, 177,000, the Marina Fund, 82,000, for total of 260,000 between the two proprietary funds. The total operating income for those two funds netted out to 8,800, just under $9,000 between the two. There were some transfers in, so the total change in net position for those funds was an increase of 33,000 after the $25,000 was transferred in from the general fund. The next several pages are the notes to the financial statements. There are a few that I would like to point out. Kyle, in your report, you were referencing the hazardous structure and some legal correspondence that's going on with that. I would like to draw the council's attention to page 44. In the middle of the section, there is a note disclosure that currently reads, accounts receivable for the general fund includes $196,915 from a resident of the city for code violations for failure to meet construction schedule timeline ordered by special magistrate on May 19th, 2021. The city has no intention to forgive these fines and believes the balance will be fully collectible. Therefore, the city has not recorded an allowance as of September 30th, 2022. That is our understanding of the city's position. If that is not the case, I would ask that you do share with us to see if there should be an allowance recorded there. The reason I am by allowance, what I mean is if that's not going to be fully collectible, and this is the number as of September 30th, it has since grown, it's on a daily basis. We need to consider the collectability, the realizability of this asset. This is a concentration. It is a material amount for the city, both in every aspect of our material calculations. So on the government-wide basis for the city as a whole, this is a material number, and we need to make sure.
One note, you said that's the antenna. This is not the antenna. Or this is not the tall structure or antenna. This is a construction.
No,
schedule
sir.
timeline.
It does not have to do with the ham radio.
Okay.
Antenna. So anyway, I point out that paragraph because that is something that you have never seen in your financial statements before. It's new, and we want to make sure that that is correct. That is what's been conveyed to us. And so we would, before this is finalized, we want to make sure that that's still the current intent. On this same page, page 44, note 5, this is the changes in capital assets as a municipality. The infrastructure is a big part of what you have. And you see that this carries the beginning balance forward to the ending balance at the end of the year. The total governmental, I'm in the middle of the page or the middle of the table there. It started, the total governmental, the capital assets at the beginning of the year were 12.4 million. And they ended at just over 12.4 million. So not a big increase there. You can see that the assets continue to be depreciated. So the governmental net assets, they started the year at 10.8 million, and after depreciation was done, they ended just under 10.5 million at 10,458,000. So that's the governmental activity. Then the next two table, or the next part of that table, are the proprietary funds. You see that they started at a net amount of 1.7 million, and after depreciation, they were 1,671,000 with no additions. As a municipality, lots of times people are concerned about the debt that the town is carrying or the city is carrying. On page 47, this is note 9. You'll see the schedule of the different loans that the city has outstanding. And when I say loans, debt, loan, or bond. And on the far right column, you see that the total governmental activities had outstanding debt at the end of the year of 1,738,000. The proprietary funds had outstanding debt of 23,000 for a total of 1,761,000 of debt at the end of the year. Now we're going to jump forward several pages, about a quarter of an inch or more, to page 85. Let's get back to the opinions. Page 85 is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. The sentence that you're looking for on this first page is the very last sentence, the last two sentences, where we say, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses may exist that have not been identified. But again, that's what you're looking for on that page. If you turn the page, there's a paragraph titled Compliance and Other Matters. And the sentence there that you're looking for is the last one. The results of our test disclosed no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. Those are the phrases that you like to see there. Turning the page to page 87, this is the management letter. It's a couple of pages long. The important sentences that I would point out here, again, the very last one on the first page, there were no findings or recommendations made on internal control and compliance issues during the preceding annual financial audit. Then turning the page to the section called Financial Conditions and Management, the last paragraph in that section, section 10.5441I2, Rules of the Auditor General requires that we communicate any recommendations to improve financial management in connection with our audit. We did not have any such communications. The next section, additional matters, last sentence in that paragraph, in connection with our audit, we did not note any such findings. And then the very last page is the independent accountant's report on compliance with section 218.415 Florida statute. The important sentence in this page is the third paragraph. In our opinion, the city of Bel Air Beach, Florida complied in all material respects with the aforementioned requirements for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. And that gets through the auditor's report.
I have a question, because I did tag that page that you referenced with regards to that large fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you looking to us for some feedback? I mean, you made it clear that that needs to be
Right.
precise.
It's so from a financial statement reporting perspective, we're concerned is, so the asset exists. There's no doubt about that. The fines are being incurred. Is there going to be any negotiation of that and a write down? So if there is anticipated negotiation and that all of that isn't going to be collected, we would need to take that into consideration to see if that asset value should be lowered. We call that an allowance against it.
Because it's grown now to 235,000.
Yes.
And, you know, we've never yet collected a fine that large, so I think there's probably some opportunity for that too.
And so that's,
Although none of us want to, I think that that's the reality is.
and so therefore we are asking from the city, through city manager and council, what is the anticipated realizable value of that? And that's, we need you all to give us a number, and then we have to audit that.
Do you need the number tonight?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, well, but it is something that would need to be finalized before we make the decision of, is the report going to be submitted by the 3/31 deadline for GFOA? Will it be extended? It is something that will have to be resolved before the audit is finalized, but no, sir, it does not have to be done tonight.
Any other questions from the council? Oh, okay, so City Manager Reaper, this was placed on the agenda as to accept this report. It doesn't say anything about draft. So should we table this, or are you asking us to just accept the draft one for now with the expectance that we're going to receive a final copy later?
Yes, I should have included draft in the agenda item. We wanted to get the Salt Marsh to come in and present with the audit as where it is now. It still needs to go to the audit committee, which we need to form with one member from council.
So I'm going to need a motion from a council member to modify this agenda item to say draft annual comprehensive financial report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're going to change that to draft. And then what I'm going to need now is a motion to accept this draft report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Can I further propose another motion?
you sure can.
So the way I understand what city manager said was that we need to appoint a council member to the audit committee. So can I present a motion to propose a council member to the audit committee so that when the time comes, they can review this?
Are you making a motion?
I am making a motion to elect a council member.
Would someone else like to second that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we have to decide on someone. And thank you for stepping up, Vice Mayor Shirley.
I'm happy to.
Second.
I can't make a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to elect council, I say me, Vice Mayor Shirley, as the representative to the audit committee.
Do I have a second? All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations. Thank you for stepping up again. Does that satisfy all of your requirements for tonight?
Yes, I will get with the CAC to schedule a meeting to get started on this and figure out our timeline. If we're going to pursue an extension or if we feel we can get it reviewed and approved.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Landers before we let him go?
Thank you very much. Appreciate your effort on this.
Have a
Yes, sir.
resident.
Sure.
Rod Saganik, 2219 Donato, regarding the fine. It's not a material, it's an asset of the city, but it's not a material asset to the operations of the ongoing operations of the city, correct?
So in the audit, in the In the financial statement audit, we have to determine materiality of a dollar amount. And we have to look at the different reporting opinions. So there's the government wide and there are the different funds. Each one has their own materiality that has to be determined. And this number does meet the materiality threshold of all of those materiality components. So is that asset going to make or break the ability of the city to continue? No, but in financial reporting, it is a material amount based on the numbers here, and it is a concentration in one individual.
I got it now. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No. Thank you very much, Mr. Landers. I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming here tonight. All right, we are on to number 8. This is the city attorney's report. Mr. Mora, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I continue to work with your manager on an array of issues. Though I was not in attendance at your last work session, I'm producing the limited revisions to the sign code discussed. We have the resolution tonight concerning parking charges. My office and my colleagues have worked on your Park Mobile contract review and other similar issues. Otherwise, continue to work through issues and remain in contact with your manager. I would say on a daily basis, but that doesn't really do it justice since we talk 2 to 3 times a day. But any issues that you folks have questions about, I'm happy to answer.
Council.
Yes. What is the next process on 105 H Street? And when is the hearing going to be scheduled?
Is that the same topic we were discussing earlier, sir? The last place where we left that, I had a lengthy discussion on Thursday with his counsel. I committed with his legal counsel. I committed to him to meet and discuss this matter with the manager this week and provide him, at least from the city's perspective, where matters stand. We need to determine what the applicable restrictions are with the code, if any, as it relates to permitting, and also what questions we have substantively about this particular operation, this particular antenna, and the specifics of the property.
So
There's not a hearing date set at the moment to answer your question.
and there's nothing in the near future.
No, sir, that's not true. As I've stated, I intend to speak with their attorney today. If you're asking me if there's a code enforcement hearing scheduled, there is not. If you're asking me if there's a Board of Adjustment hearing scheduled, there is not. What we need to determine is what procedure is most appropriate, and the procedure will be determined by the work product that comes out of our exchanges.
And that'll,
Not everything is predetermined.
and that'll be by week's end.
My aim is by week's end to have a path forward. I've committed to get information, as has his counsel. The process is not as fixed and concrete as your questions seem to desire it to be.
Other questions or comments from the council? No. Mr. Mora, thank you very much for your patience, and we anticipate hearing something good soon on this topic. Right. Now we are moving on to item 9, which is the city manager's report. Mr. Riefler, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, we are wrapping up the 12th and 13th and Bay stormwater project. The last thing we did was called out the contractor and subcontractor to redo a curb segment on 13th Street, which was not producing the proper fall to get the water into the drain. That is complete. The contractor has requested the rest of the payment for the retainage, and we are closing that project this week. Once I get confirmation that all liens are released for the city. The Gulf Boulevard undergrounding project, we had another progress meeting on March 1st. Duke, we keep pushing Duke to tell us, try to get an update on when the material is going to be delivered, and the Duke representative did state that they do not have a date, but they will keep checking. So our permitting is right on to be ready as soon as the material shows. The Gulf of Mexico buoy replacement, I actually did find a cheaper solution from American Underwater Contractors, going back to the helical anchors. They've done it in the past for us. In talking to the contractor, they felt confident that they would be able to locate the majority of the existing anchors from their experience. And, there would be a minimum charge of where we needed to install another anchor. I think that's the best way to move forward. And, I remember in 2018, when we were getting quotes, the diver team was the more expensive route than doing the concrete blocks, but now it seems to have changed. So that's positive. The stormwater improvement projects, we had a meeting with the Citizens Advisory Committee on February 22nd, where a presentation of the bond issue and some term sheets, pluses and positives and negatives of where we stand as a city and our ability to take on debt. The CAC, and we had a actual citizen resident attend the meeting as well. They were all in support and making a recommendation for the chair and myself to present in the March 20th, I presume, the third Monday of the month work session. So that that is planned to be an agenda item. The code enforcement analysis project continue to move forward, continue with the change in the reporting. I am getting our community services administrator more directly involved with doing some of the day-to-day. I feel like making him familiar with the code enforcement process and the codes in general, given the amount of time that he is in the city, a full-time job, that he will assist in producing more efficient code enforcement. So looking forward to keep going with that. I haven't heard any change on the April 14th shipping date from the playground set. So we'll just wait until we get a little closer for confirmation. The Morgan Park parking lot was completed on February 16th. I plan on dropping that off of this list, as well as we finally closed out all the POs for the seawall and boat ramp replacement project. I am scheduling meetings with departments this week to go over proposed budget changes. We continue to work on the budget. I will turn that into the financial administrator or our financial consultant at the end of the month to move forward. We have Heather scheduled, who is our financial consultant, for the April meeting to present an overall report on where we stand at the close of the last budget year and what changes and things we should recommendations and things we should look forward to while we start this next year's budget process. And then last, you're probably aware that we've been getting some more red tide in the area. The health department of the state of Florida provided us with a flyer notice on Friday. It was later in the afternoon Friday, and we posted that to the recommendation. At that point, there weren't very many fish on the beach. On Saturday, it was reported that the fish kill had increased and there were fish on the beach. We went out there starting this morning in our best efforts with our staff to start cleaning the fish, picking it up manually. I think they did besides what others, we actually had residents that collected fish in their own bags. They picked up those bags, and then I think 11 on their own full trash bags. Luckily, when I went out and checked on it in Morgan Park at about 1:30 this afternoon, the tide was washing up, and it significantly did decrease the amount of fish that were still laying on the beach. And I did not see a large amount floating in the water, but that all could change by tomorrow, just depending on what happens. We could end up with more fish or continue to stay fortunate. The staff did work from Morgan Park down south. So if the fish numbers do not increase, we expect to have a fairly significant 95% cleanup by tomorrow. But we're committed to continue to keep working on picking up the fish at the fastest that we can in-house. I have been in contact with the county. They have not started the outside contractors to be picking up the fish at this point, and they have not started their roll-off dumpster program that they did in the past, where they provided the actual dumpsters for collection. Just as a precautionary action, we did order a roll-off dumpsters line specifically for fish from Waste Management just to have ready. That's all.
Council.
Kyle, came to the council's attention that there's a disabled child around 21st Street. I know Goff Boulevard is a county-owned street or road, excuse me. Can we put up a sign there through the city? On notifying the traffic and that there is a disabled child and he'd wave to him?
They do make those signs and I have seen them, so it can be installed.
By our city or would have
By
to go
the
through the
city.
county?
It's our discretion.
So it would have to be brought up in like a work session.
If there's no major objection, maybe we take it to the work session just for a quick discussion to see if there's any other opinions, but if not, I feel like it's something that would benefit that child on the street and we could do it.
Would a motion be suitable for this council to put up a sign there?
You're welcome to make any motion you'd like.
I'd like to make a motion to put up a sign, maybe 2 signs notifying there's a disabled child, handicapped child between 19th and maybe 23rd Street.
Second.
Second by Mike Zabel. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
Mr.
Mayor,
I just want to clarify, are you proposing on Gulf Boulevard or on the actual street that the child lives on?
No, between 19th and 23rd on Goff Boulevard, because
Oh, because I don't think we can place it on Gulf Boulevard, right? We can place it in the neighborhood. That's where you
That's
said that.
a good point. Gulf Boulevard is not our right of way. Would be.
yeah, that was my question. If
Okay.
we were allowed to do it on Goff Boulevard.
No, we can put it on our private streets, but we cannot unless I get permission from the county. I can reach out and find out their stance.
But at minimum, we can put it in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So let's at least do that. You can do that on your own and then work the county angle as well, but at least have that
Yeah, at least put it on 21st Street.
That's where they live.
Okay.
Thank you.
21st, yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, on that topic as well, can we look at maybe installing a Moby mat? And then if you can coordinate with our citizen out here about specifically what's wrong with, the handrails and try to see what we can do to, make the accommodations. And again, the Moby mat basically just hits it's where it enters the sand, the bridge, but it goes out. So you can actually take wheelchairs out on this mat. We've had them seen them over in Clearwater. So if you can check those out and then report back to the council, what you've coordinated with. See what we can support you with.
Council member Zabel, I will respond to that we actually had the opportunity to have those installed for free. And whenever they came and they surveyed our accesses, they weren't suitable for a Moby mat. And maybe it was something completely different, but I just want to keep that in mind. We'll look into it and we'll see what we can come up with, but it may not be a conventional solution. So. All right. Yes, sir.
Kyle, the city hall generator, I may have missed that. Did you bring that up?
I left it on there. There's been no change since I received the last quote for the used diesel generator.
Okay.
I did not hear anything kind of moving forward with that. So I just kept it on.
I mean, I think that's a great idea. What was the original budget line item for a new one?
The original budget was over 2 years, we were saving $250,000. And then when we first started looking into this, that I presented to you that the estimate went up to about I think it was 260 or 270. And then
Okay.
we started chipping away at a way for cheaper.
So this would be a big saving. That's great. Do we happen to know the specs on this particular one with regards to how long it will run on a full tank at full power?
I do have the specs, so I can present that
Okay.
in the work session.
Okay. That's good. And also, I know we had discussed previously the lining of the two pipes on the 12th and 13th Street project. What's the status on that?
The status on that is I'd like to build it into the next stormwater bid that we do to get the most competitive pricing for that.
So that would be the one where we're going to go out to the 5 projects.
If
Perfect.
approved, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, then we will move right on to city clerk's report.
No
Yes.
report this one.
No report. All
I have a
right.
brief question. Patty, I don't have the handouts for tonight.
Pardon?
I don't have the handouts that were on the table. All the city council members received handouts. I did not receive handouts.
Pass these down.
Yep.
There's a copy here.
Okay, thank you.
I stole Mike's.
No problem. No, appreciate that. Thanks. Sorry
Any
for that.
questions for Ms. Gentry? No? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're up to item number 11. This is a public hearing. This is a consideration of ordinance 23-01. Mr. Mora, would you please read the ordinance?
Happily, Mr. Mayor, if you just give me one moment to get that on the materials. This is a second reading of the ordinance as stated earlier within the hearing. In the second hearing, it is the final hearing for purposes of the legislative body. This is ordinance 23-01, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending section 94-220 pertaining to the table of designated living areas and housing setbacks, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. This is a second and final reading of ordinance 23-01.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Let's go to citizen comments.
Evening, Council Mayor. My name is Mark Pope and a resident of 523 Belle Isle Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Zabel, for the detailed notes from the last council meeting. We were unable to attend the reading by title only of this ordinance. My comments are going to cut across a couple of points real quickly. First of all, after detailed analysis of the table, I could not understand the kind of arbitrary nature of the setbacks by lot differences. And secondly, I did not see any commentary that we had done any benchmarking of similar setbacks of other beach towns, as well as in alignment with the setbacks recommended at the county level. As a personal note, our lot, I measured today based on the table, and my house already is over the limits. My house was built in 1974. There's been no material changes. And I would just like to present to council that maybe we take a pause on this ordinance, have a more detailed study, understand how these setbacks are actually calculated. And again, benchmarking and or subordinate deference to the county standard.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. We're going to be discussing this right after citizens' comments, and maybe you'll understand where we're going with this. Anyone else like to make a comment on this topic?
Jennifer Pope, 523 Belle Isle. I just wanted to add on to his comments around the setbacks. I mean, the purpose of setbacks are essentially to preserve our views between our neighbors. And as we look at this, I'm just looking at it from a fairness perspective, because there are some that are 7.5 foot, some are 10 foot. We actually are the 10 foot. And so arguably we should be happier than the 7.5 foot because we have 20 feet between our neighbors, but our lots aren't that big. And so if there was an opportunity where we said we wanted to add portico, something that prevents us from adding anything to our lot, if we want to do any kind of improvements, when we don't need 20 feet in between ours and our neighborhood, our lot and our neighbor's lot to preserve our view, which is really the purpose of having setbacks between your neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. Any other comments from the citizens? No? Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to need a motion to approve ordinance 23-01. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Shirley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
Well, the way I'm looking at this, I think we're just cleaning up some language. We're not necessarily changing anything. And I may be completely off base, but I'm curious to know why this is in the packet.
Thank you very much for the question. And the manager asked, should a question come up, that I address it. The setback amounts in each of the areas identified in the table remain the same. We are not actually altering any of the setback proposals by this ordinance. What we are trying to resolve is confusion caused by the previous layout of the table and the Scrivener's errors concerning the spelling of Bellevue Estates, where it was spelled with a VUE versus a VIEW. The format of the ordinance sets forth that in the form of the strike throughs and underlines. Given how much content was in that table, it's actually called out in red text additionally, which we don't typically do. But what we've done here is fix the spelling and fix the formatting to make it more clear, so that the way it was reading previously, Bellevue Estates had different setbacks for lots, certain lot numbers, which is still the case. And then further down within the table, it said Bellevue Estates Island and had something else. And then there was another row at the very bottom of the table that was not consistent with those. And then that was leading to inconsistent results in engineering analysis and staff analysis of applications. And in some cases, those inconsistent results resulted in variances or other administrative solutions to bring a property into compliance. As to individual properties that were constructed before these provisions, those are non-conforming structures, those dating back to the 60s and 70s. That's a completely different analysis. We are not proposing new setbacks be imposed or the demolition of any existing structures. This was really to clean up the table to avoid further confusion in future applications, and that's what you have before you on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Any other comments or questions on this topic?
So to clarify, this is just language change?
It's what is commonly described in many ordinances as housekeeping. It is an attempt to clarify the existing content of the code, not to impose new restrictions.
It's not going to impact, as the citizens brought up about their lot setbacks. It's not going to encroach on that.
As it relates to somebody's structure that has been in place since the 70s, no, it does not have an impact. However, if they are applying for some kind of new structure on their property, those setbacks as established would certainly apply. So this does affect residents with intending to approach new development. And the intended impact most directly is that they have a clearer understanding and expectation of what they should develop. There was one instance in particular where a property owner sought development approval. Staff looked at it and reached a conclusion as to one setback. The engineer looked at it, reached another, approved something, and that approved item was not consistent, was consistent with one part of the table, but not the other. And so to avoid that kind of confusion, this was, again, as raised last time, somebody said, I forget which one of you suggested this was a good catch within the code, and where did it come from? And that came from your city manager in the course of administering applications and saying, we can't have this kind of confusion in our code, and prioritizing it.
And again, nice catch on that, City Manager Riefler. If there are no other comments or questions, I'm going to ask Patty to call the roll. Patty?
Councilmember Banger,
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye, so it passes unanimously. Ordinance 23-01. Thank you for your work on this one, Mr. Moore. All right, now we are on to the consent agenda, items 12 and 13. This is for approval of the February 6, 2023 City Council meeting minutes and a proclamation proclaiming the month of March 2023 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve as written.
Motion made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. All right, now we are to the regular agenda. Item number 14, consideration of resolution 2023-01 parking rates at city parks, city parking lots. Mr. Mora?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution 2023-01, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending parking pay station hourly rates at Bayside Park, the Community Center, City Hall, City Marina, and Morgan Drive Park, and establishing an effective date. This is the first and only reading of resolution 2023-01 by title only. This resolution, as it's been put before you, is work product resulting from your work session held late last month, just a couple weeks ago. And this memorializes the terms of those the lot hours, the parking fees of $5 per hour on weekdays in the respective lots, and then $10 per hour on weekends and holidays, and the intended maximum limits and any free parking times. I will note during your work session, there was, as I understand it, some discussion concerning corresponding parking fines. You already have language in your code in section 58-37 and 58-38 concerning fines and civil penalties. A resolution cannot supersede an ordinance, so we cannot do it that way. If we are to change those, we would do so via ordinance. So that's why what you have here is just the parking rates, not any penal element to it as to what happens if you're not in compliance. I've spoken with the manager. Were we to do that, it would be done by ordinance. One of the things that we're considering in a form of staffing, should that come before you, is at least an informal rate study increase of other communities as to where they are, so we can make sure we're in line with that, and with any due consideration to applicable statutes or other restrictions on what those sums can be.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Before we begin a discussion on this, let's go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to speak on this? Yes, sir. Please come up.
Good evening, Barry Gray, 108 12th Street. As far as parking in this lot, is this the consideration that we're under? Is this lot included in that?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, city.
I have a problem with, on the weekends, people park here. They go over to the 12th Street beach access. They put up their umbrellas. And by the time we get out there, if we're not running out there at 9 o'clock, there's no place for us to go. It's been taken over by people who are trespassing. So looking for remedy. I think this parking lot should be closed off to any type of outsider parking. I mean, you're precluding us from having enjoyment of our beach and bathing purposes. So that would be my comment about this lot.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Any other comments from the citizens? Yes.
Debbie Mall, 115 Causeway. I would agree with Barry Gray with his comments. I think we have to have parking here, though, I believe, for beach for nourishment. Is that correct? So perhaps we can, at least on the weekends, make it more expensive so that we deter people from two different things. They come here, they'll park, they'll take their umbrellas and things and they put them up there, and then they will go park across the bridge. One person will, and then come back, or they just leave them there the whole day. And as Barry said, if we're not down there by 10 o'clock, you aren't getting an umbrella up on the weekends. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the citizens? No? All right. Now we are to the council. Before we get started on this conversation, I'm going to need a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Who made the first one?
Mike made the
Oh,
first.
Mike did. Okay.
And then Frank.
And then Frank. All right. Mr. Zabel, you have the floor.
Just, yeah, absolutely addressing your comments. Used to be $4 and $5. We moved it for, excuse me, $5 during the weekday to $10. So basically more than doubling it. To go basically trying to find the pain threshold. If you have a parking decal, you're good. These are for the outside people. And also we want to clear something up right here in front of everybody. We're not stopping on street parking. We'll always have that. You just call, City Hall, arrange it. But again, we more than doubled it to $10 an hour. So that's, I don't know, we talked about that. It's more than area parking charges.
Lloyd Roberts.
I just want to clarify. So Mrs. Mall, when you were saying that, were you envisioning that, let's say we made it $100 an hour, so people wouldn't park there. You're saying they would typically drive here, drop off their crew, then go back across the bridge. So, okay. So you're saying that even if we made it uncomfortable, they're typically going to find another way to do that by dropping off the crew, putting the umbrellas out, going back across the bridge, getting somebody a bicycle or getting a taxi or one of those other companies to bring them back over, and they're still going to steal the spots in the beach. So, okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's really nothing we can do about it because we gave up our rights as a private beach to accept beach nursemen.
Come on up.
I might disagree with that statement. I don't think that we should be incentivizing people to park in our lots and use our accesses. And by keeping our parking fees are considerably less than the beach at Clearwater Beach. By doing that, we are incentivizing people to park here instead of there. So if we make it whatever the payment threshold is, it will at least deter them. I realize we probably can't stop everybody, but I think we can reduce the problem to some extent.
Thank you, Ms. Mall.
Can I just add, I think that's what we're trying to do is kind of deter people from coming to the beach because we have the same issue at Morgan Park where you just can't even get a parking spot. That's where we have facilities. If you want to go to the park with your grandchildren where you have a restroom facility they can use, you can't get a parking spot there. And we don't have any reserved residential spaces. It's the same problem up and down the beach. So we're trying to raise these rates high enough to deter people from being at the beach too long too. We're putting some time limits on it. But I noticed on this proposal, as we talk about that, do we need to have the limits on Bayside Park and City Hall?
I was going to make that suggestion because we originally did. We weren't really aware that it was a problem more than, at $10 an hour all day long. I didn't envision anyone being here all day long, but for $100, it may be worth it to someone to be here for 10 hours. What does the council think on putting limits on it, just like we have with the marina and Morgan Park?
I would be for that.
I think it should have a limit on it because then it's going to deter the people from bringing their tents and coolers and staying all day, which seems to be a big issue.
I would say,
Does he have his hand up?
yes, sir, Mr. Gray.
They're going to get there. I think the solution is like Bel Air Shore has in their ordinance that they can ask these people who are setting up behind their houses, whether they're in the below the wet sand or whatever, if they're residents, and if they're not, they make them leave. Now, if these people from who knows where they come from set up in our lot, are we able to call the police and have them prove that they're residents here?
I don't believe that's the case because we have public access.
Okay.
It's not that the public access in our areas is Wait a minute, you're talking about 12th. Well, that may be.
Any of the 6th Street, 12th Street, 18th.
I think once they get onto the beach, there's not really anything we can do about it.
What if they're sitting in the area that has now been designated, our area is to set up and have an umbrella? But if they're now sitting in what has been designated.
I'm going to interrupt you right now. I don't think that we're prepared to answer those questions. I think it's going to require some more research, and maybe we will have this discussion in a work session and see if we can get more information from our city attorney. And it's just not a topic we're prepared to discuss at this moment. Right now, we're trying to focus on parking rates and securing a new metering system for parking. I very much appreciate your comments, and I would like to move on. We're back to the limit, the time limit on the parking rates. I'm going to need a motion if someone wants to reduce those.
Motion.
Motion made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, what is the nature of the motion?
The motion is to amend the resolution. I'm sorry, I should have
In
asked
what
for
fashion, though?
clarification.
3 hours.
As to Bayside Park and as to City Hall, correct?
I think that would be, across the board.
And I don't mean to be rude. I understood that's where you were going. I just want to clear in the record that that's the motion on the floor.
Okay, and did we have a second?
Second.
Second made by Jody Shirley. Mr. Banker, do you have the floor?
I think this helps. I don't think it cures it. I mean, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, about a work session to address other problems. The electric bikes are a big thing now at 12th and 6th Street. We make our residents pay for a city tag, but these electric bikes, as the one resident says, take up the parking benches and everything like that. It's a matter to be discussed tomorrow or the next day, but I think a 3-hour limit will help.
I agree. And also this will definitely be a good trial balloon for their pain threshold, as one of the citizens said, and also as Mike Zabel brought up. If it continues to be a problem and we're just completely overwhelmed with people that have no problem paying $30 and then moving on, we may raise it even higher. So we'll just see where that goes. Any other comments on changing the limits, the hour limits on parking at Bayside and City Hall?
So I know we discussed this at the workshop. So if I'm parked and my 3 hours are up, does anything preclude me from coming back and paying for an additional 3 hours?
Well, you wouldn't come back because there's no physical machine. You would just open your app, but with this resolution, we will be blocking the ability of them to renew their 3 hours. So 3 hours, and then
You can't do the old chalk thing on the tire, move it up forward. You're locked.
exactly.
With the current system, we would not have been able to do that.
That's right.
They would just come back and put more money in.
Correct.
New
So
tag.
they're going. Okay.
Nope.
Just your driveway.
Okay, so any other comments on this
Question.
time limit motion before we continue forward?
Okay, so my motion's still on there to vote to approve. Okay, as amended now.
Yep. So all in favor of amending resolution 2023-01?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so you're making those changes, and now we're back to we don't need a motion for the amended. We're still on
There's
the
already a
original.
motion on the floor to adopt the ordinance. You've now moved and approved to amend. So you revert back to the motion
the
to
original
approve the
motion.
ordinance
Yep.
with the understanding that it would be approved as amended.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any other discussion on approving this resolution as amended? No. We're going to need need you to call the roll, Patty.
Councilmember Banker.
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye, so the resolution passes unanimously and we have new parking rates. All right. Now we are on to item number 15. This is to authorize city manager to execute a piggyback agreement with Park Mobile LLC. This was placed on the agenda by City Manager Riegler. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This agenda item is the follow-up of our discussion we had in the work session a couple weeks or week and a half ago. I've been in contact with Park Mobile. They were able to provide the piggyback agreement from St. Petersburg. I worked diligently with Attorney Morris' colleague, Mr. Eschenfeld. And we revised the contract to the attorney's liking. They were agreeable with all the amendments that we did, so we're comfortable with reviewing the contract, make sure it legally suffices for the city's needs. As a little background, we've had I couldn't find the exact date of how long we've actually owned a parking meter. I know it's over 13 years. The way our financial system, we're operating on a QuickBooks, and it only went back that far without searching through some of our records. So we've had we own all the meters. We have 4 meters. We own them and we purchased them in order of Bayside Park, the Marina, Morgan, and City Hall was the most recent. I know that went in 2018 because I helped install it. So the manual parking meters, throughout my experience with them, they require frequent maintenance and staff time. They just do not hold up well. Probably do better in some environments that aren't so close to saltwater air, but we constantly are spending time replacing parts and troubleshooting them. So this was presented in the work session, just as a recap, and we did an analysis of the revenue and expenditures, showing at least that we would break even, and if not profit more. We're quite certain that the margin will increase now that we've approved increasing the parking rates. And then I just wanted to include, if this is approved, I will pursue selling the existing assets of which are the parking meters back to the vendor to recoup some cost back to the city.
Thank you. Before we bring it back to the council, let's go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to make a comment on bringing in Park Mobile and replacing our existing parking meters? Nope. All right, back to the council. We're going to need a motion to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Park Mobile. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Don't know who said.
I did.
Oh.
One word.
We're throwing off the night.
I'm not the only one then.
It's all right. And the second was made by Frank Bankert. Mr. Zabel, you have the floor.
Okay, going back, Park Mobile, we had all voted unanimously to select Kyle as our city manager. But many didn't know is that he was spending quite a bit of time doing the maintenance on these machines, including running out, finding parts, trying to get it repaired. And we all said we want to give him all the tools available to make him successful. And one of those was removing excess work. That's what we're doing with this Park Mobile plan. He just alluded to, yeah, we did the spreadsheet. We're looking forward to at least a small profit, but that was based on $4 an hour. Coupled with that savings as stood with $4, and then we're talking the increases to $5 during the weekday and $10 during the weekends. Look forward to a pretty solid profit off this move. So again, thank you, Kyle, for heading this up, running down all the numbers and your diligence in this matter.
Any other comments from the council on this? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I think this decision with Park Mobile is a great decision, but I don't want to confuse people by the fact that Mr. Zabel just talked about increasing the prices. Clearly, we could have done the same thing with the existing systems. So the profit would have been there as well. But the Park Mobile decision is a good decision. I just don't want people to think that, well, wow, because we got the Park Mobile, we can increase the prices and we couldn't do that before. Clearly, we could.
Any other comments?
Yeah, the key with Park Mobile though is, yeah, you can increase both, but under this system, you can stop, like we just said, the max hours. You can't do that with the other system.
Yeah, I was just clarifying the cost.
Yeah, no, I got you. But thank you though.
Thought we actually did have maximum hours, but it was maximum you could feed the meter.
Yeah.
And then you had to go back and you were able to
Just
walk
walk
back.
back the paper.
And it just so happened to work out. That was bathroom time.
Right.
So it wasn't really an inconvenience.
That was birthday cake time, yeah. Thanks.
Any other comments before we take this to a vote? Nope. All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Banker,
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone,
Yes.
Councilmember Robert,
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. So again, it passes unanimously. Mr. Riefler, you are authorized to proceed and engage with Park Mobile LLC.
Mayor, before we proceed through the agenda, if I may ask your indulgence on a procedural matter, respectfully requesting that we reopen the hearing on resolution 2023-01 on the parking fees. And as I review it, I noticed that while it states in the title that it provides an effective date, I believe somewhere in the draft and transmission that language fell off. And I would just like to indulge the commission or council rather to amend the resolution further to state the resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption, so that there's no misunderstanding as to that fact.
Yes.
So moved.
I think someone needs to initiate.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to place the effective date on the amended resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mike Zabel, seconded by Frank Bankert. All in favor?
Mayor, before we
I
do
don't know if I
that,
hit it.
since we have to take public comment as it's an official act and just specify, clarify, Member Zabel, you're suggesting that resolution 2023-01 as adopted be further amended to add language stating that it would take effect immediately upon adoption. Is that correct?
That is correct.
There's a motion and a second on the floor, Mr. Mayor. We just take any public comment before we pass on the matter.
All right. Citizens,
Seeing
no
none,
comments
Mr.
from
Mayor.
the citizens. Back to the council. Any comments from the council? I think we're gonna have to do this by roll call vote anyway.
Councilmember Banker,
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye, and so the amended resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you, council.
All right. We are now up to unfinished business, number 16. Any unfinished business?
Can I just add something that I think was created as a result of this, and that is creating the ordinance or modifying the fine ordinance for the parking. Is that something that we can have prepared pretty quickly? I mean, at the next, can we vote on that at the next meeting, or is that something you can prepare for the next meeting? We're pretty on point of what we wanted, and I think it was the gentleman that was filling in your shoes actually made some recommendations based on what was recently passed in neighboring communities.
And in as much as there were representations about increased fines in specifically Indian Rocks Beach, that I don't believe that to be totally accurate. He provided some insight on some figures. I think ultimately the community abandoned some of that fee structure as part of how the parking discussion evolved and then dissipated. But that said, we can move as quickly as this body wishes to move. We just could not supersede the ordinance by resolution. And then two, I want to make sure that you folks have whatever information you deem necessary, whether that takes the form of staffing on first reading. I know this community likes to work session items, and you did have a work session on it. I've had some discussions with the manager since that work session, but ultimately I'll defer to his direction as to what timeline we produce work product and what the staffing on that looks like.
I already had a discussion with my staff about collecting the local rates that are being charged and how quickly we can put that together. We feel like we can get that done for the work session.
Okay,
So that we can have that discussion and then move forward from there.
perfect. Thank you.
Great. Any other unfinished business? No. Okay, well, it's now time for council comments, and I went to the computer, opened up the randomizer program, and this month it picked Councilmember Zabel to start us off.
I love the randomizer. Hey, I want to call out Councilman Roberts. The invocation is going well, so thank you for your recommendation and carrying it out.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, next up is Councilmember Roberts.
All right. First, I want to thank everybody who stayed this late, that earlier made comments about the traffic issues that we have up there. I know there's one thing that we can all agree on, I hope, which is the current scenario that's going on up there is not perfect. We all know that. We live through it every day. I asked the city council in one of our workshops, because this is kind of in my swing plane as a civil engineer, professional engineer, if I could pursue taking a look at what's going on out there today, meet with the county and talk through some different options. So we did that. I did that. I met with the director of transportation with the county, nice gentleman, Tom Washburn. One of the things that he recommended that we're going to do, I know Kyle is working on it, is the study that was done a few years ago that resulted in the infamous double left-hand turn lane is up for kind of a renew. They typically wait a couple of years to go back, review it again, hire another outside consultant, doesn't cost us any money at all. And their objective is to see how well is that current system working based on the original study. So they're going to do that. We talked about many things. There's many options available out there. I can assure you the following, and typically county transportation departments will do this. I'll make sure they do this, that before any decisions are made, they will come up here and have like an open house, sometimes multiple open houses, because they'll have the first one to say after the study, after receiving input from the citizens. And trust me, when I talked about some of the options, it was because citizens called and talked to me about what's going on up here. So those type of an open house will take place where the citizens have an opportunity. We'll probably have it right in here. They'll have big whiteboards up and different things like that to show you graphically what some of the options are, where you will have input to say, hey, I like that, or I think that's terrible, and here's why. And then they'll talk through it, and they'll typically come back with another one with updated data and information, unless the first one, everybody said that's perfect, which is unlikely. So that's where we are. That's where we are today. I feel bad that some of our citizens, like you guys, got rolled up into this because of some emails that went out by a council member that kind of gave opinions and summaries. It would have been better for that not to happen. Now, if a council member says, hey, we're talking about these things, and if you want to refer to some of the videos out there, the tapes, I recommend you look at minute 11 or something like that. It may be interesting to you. That's fine. But when we're saying things out there that may or may not be completely accurate or completely finished with regards to what's going on, that causes problems, and it causes citizens to get excited about things that they don't have to. Because nothing's going to happen, I assure you, until we've studied this thing and have come out with better ideas. I know, for example, there were some comments made about everybody loves the blinking yellow light, as do I and most citizens in this city. You can't have that with two left-hand turn lanes. Cannot have it. It's against traffic rules. The only way we can get back the blinking yellow turn light is to have a single turn lane. So that's just one fact that's out there. So there's multiple ways to take a look at this, and we will do that. And that's what I'm doing now. I study it every day when I drive through there. If I'm coming from St. Pete and heading north, it's interesting to me, the last couple of times I was the first car to stop at the traffic light. So I get to watch, and this would typically be about 5 o'clock, 5:30, watch the vehicles coming to the south, both of them turning to the left. Nobody follows the white dashed line. Everybody's cutting this way. My biggest concern is it's not even the potential traffic crash problem of the vehicles. I'm thinking more of if somebody's on the right-hand side as they're making that left-hand turn, somebody on the inside bumps them, and God forbid there's somebody walking on that sidewalk with a child or by themselves, and that vehicle jumps the curb. That's what I'm most concerned about. So I know there's a better solution out there. There has to be, and that's what I'm working towards. But again, you have my assurance, we're not going to make this blindly. I don't know how the current scenario was approved previously. You know, I asked the county, I said, well, how did you guys do this before? I think he told me, well, he met with the city manager and the mayor, they discussed it, and the decision was made. So we're going to do better than that this time. We're going to make sure the citizens are involved, they see pictures, they know what's going to happen, and they have an opportunity to tell us whether or not that meets your desires. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Now we move on to Councilmember Livingstone.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Roberts, for that explanation. I think you did a very good summary
Thank you.
of what took place. Thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for your comments. We do take those very seriously. I want to thank Councilmember Bankert for moving forward with the request for the disabled child. Thank you very much for that. So no further comment.
Thank you. Now we're up to Councilmember Bankert.
For the record, I was not attacking the mayor. In fact, actually, I noted the impacted residents supported you. And I don't believe that would be an attack. But before I noted the tower infraction, and it is a tower, it's not an antenna. We discussed in length toilet water, pipe gurgling in homes. Both can be messy, but this is a 9-month problem that could kill somebody. And that's why I was passionate in my plea. There was no attack to you. You've done nothing but been a gentleman to me since you've taken office. Hopefully I've returned the same to you. I want to really, she left, but I really want to thank the Parks Director. Last month we had a pet supply drop off for the Pinellas County. It loaded up my back of my pickup truck. And they were so grateful for all the things that these fine residents, hopefully we'll have another one, but it was very, very touching with all the stuff we got. Now, I don't want to be the cockroach on the Christmas turkey here, but anything that we do to offset this traffic problem for tourists, it's only going to make it worse. Okay, if you have tourists coming from Clearwater and they see an easy way now out of Bel Air Beach, we're going to get more tourists using that area. This is about a 60-day problem we face every year. Come May, we won't even be talking about this until next March or next February. Leave it alone. I think just leave it alone. That island is beautiful. That crosswalk is very necessary. I tried crossing that causeway a number of times. I have a councilwoman there right next to me. She knows it's a hazard, that causeway crosswalk. I think we just should leave it alone. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, now we are up to Vice Mayor Shirley.
Thank you. So I attended the mayor's luncheon this past week, and the Florida League of Cities did a legislative update as they enter into that season, and it was there, they went through a number of bills that are being discussed right now and several things to kind of watch for. And once again, is the SB 714 is short-term rental, which is actually being supported by DeSiglia. So just kind of some things that, you know, I'm naming these bills, just some for residents and other council members to take a look at. There was one they talked about, which really affects every community in the state, and it's HB 617, or excuse me, 671 and SB 682. And it's, the league is recommending opposing, but it's regarding building permits, and they're requiring that building permits be approved in a very short amount of time. Really, and if the city can't get it done, then there's bigger consequences. So just some things to look at there. Also some things to land development code. And then I guess just for council members, this is important that the league is now offering Monday mornings, 9 a.m. a call-in. You just call, get a live update of what's happening. Really probably a good thing for all of us to take a look at. And then this is something I would like for maybe Patty, we could have available to residents. And it's, you can scan it, but it's the League of Cities has put together, Florida League of Cities has put together citizens' voice information. So you can go on here, take a look at, they've got a little QR code you can scan, give you updates and information on what we can do to keep governmental decisions at a local level, to give the cities more autonomy to make their own decisions rather than state level. And there is a big push to take city rights away from cities and put it up at a state level. So maybe Patty can get these. I'll leave these with you, Patty. And then, you know, anyone wants to scan it now, they could definitely do that. But that's, I think, oh, I guess I just one more, couple other quick comments is, bike racks. I know there was a question about whether we could have bike racks. I know we talked about this before, getting more park benches at the beach accesses. I don't know if the bike racks, I mean, I know it sounds like a great idea. Maybe if we put them out towards the gates or something and not down where the park benches are, because this then just gives those same umbrella users at that beach access more access to the, if you give them a place to tie their bike up, they'll bring them on carts, they'll bring whatever they need for the beach for that day. And then now they have full access. So I don't know if we're creating a problem or not, but we might want to look at bike racks and have some discussion about that at the next work session. I think that's it. Thank you for coming, y'all.
Let me comment on the bike racks. For some reason, I thought that we were moving the bike racks into the parking lot away from the beach entirely. Did that not happen? Remember that we were going to add more benches. And according to the gentleman that was here tonight, nothing has been done. I thought we had benches. We were just going to relocate them.
I remember us discussing it. I never got approval from Bel Air Shore, so I'll reach out again to tell them the plan. And as far as adding the benches, there is no bike rack there.
Okay, all right.
I know we talked about possible locations for a bike rack, but
Well, if the residents aren't using them, then probably no need to have them anyway. But I don't know if the residents are using them. I know that I see people riding bikes all the time, but I don't know if they take them to the beach. So.
They tie them to the bench. That's the problem. So then the bench then you can't sit on the bench because they've got them.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I just wasn't sure if that was us or if that was other communities.
Right. Gotcha.
okay, so I will follow up with Bel Air
Reach
Shore.
out to them. You've not contacted them yet about this, is that right?
I had like a preliminary discussion only with the Bel Air Shore clerk.
Oh, I see.
But
I see.
I just move it forward.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, so last month, I mentioned the beach nourishment and the problems we've been having where it looks like we're not going to get beach nourishment, at least not through the Army Corps of Engineers and the Fed. So I have been working with mayor from North Reddington Beach, Bill Queen, and also the mayor from Indian Shores, Pat Serrano. And what we've been doing is we've been meeting with all of the county commissioners to say, you're collecting a bed tax and it's reserved for us for beach nourishment. Well, you're saving all this money, so I need you to start coming up with a plan B, because right now what they're doing is nothing. They've just been sitting on the money and hoping that they don't have to spend it. Instead, they get money from the federal government. The truth is, I don't think it's going to happen. But anyway, I met with Dave Eggers today. He's on board with trying to do it ourselves rather than relying on the Army Corps. So whenever I say ourselves, I mean the county. So he's on board. I spoke with Kathleen Peters, met with her about a week ago. She's on board. Janet Long, she's slightly reluctant, but she is on board. Also, the day that Vice Mayor Shirley was at the Mayor's Council, she was sitting in for me because at that time I was meeting with Senator Ed Hooper to find out if what the appropriate path would be to get more state funds to sweeten the pot for the county to want to do this. So as it stands right now, the Fed would do 60%, the county does 20, the state does 20. And what I asked Senator Hooper for was to continue matching whatever it is we have to spend. Well, obviously, we're not going to get that, but you always ask for more, and hopefully you get some of it instead of none of it. So I know that Senator DeSiegel is not exactly our favorite person because of the short-term rentals, but he is also another person that I'll be meeting with soon to have the same conversation about state funding. And then also City Manager Riefler joined me, and we went to the Pinellas Tourist Development Council combined with the Pinellas Board of County Commissioners meeting. And that gave me the opportunity to speak to every one of the commissioners one by one and introduce them to our new city manager. So I think that we're making some progress on this possibility of the county actually stepping up and doing what's right, which is to protect the cash cow that pays for baseball stadiums and sports complexes and things like that, which is where a lot of that money goes to. So if you reinvest into the beaches, then the money will come back. And not only just for right now, they keep hoping that the Fed is going to do something and actually say, nah, we'll give you another pass and we'll do your nourishment again. That's plan A, and I don't believe that's ever gonna happen. Plan B that we're discussing, and now I'm actually getting people to say Plan B, which is really kind of cool, is that they look at the emergency spots that need sand. We're one of them. Bel Air Beach is one, North Reddington Beach is the other. And it's only Sand Key that's being ignored right now by the Army Corps because of those people that will never ever sign those easements. So then there's a Plan C also, which would take a serious look at hardening our beaches so that we don't need renourishment as often. It's always going to move, but eventually if the county will do the right thing and actually get this project started, instead of every 5 to 7 years, we may not need nourishment, but maybe every 10 years. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I have a couple more meetings coming up with various people, and we'll see if we can see if we can get them to get this project started. Also, speaking of the tourist development, the Tourist Development Council, it was recommended because I attended that meeting that the Big C actually has a delegate that's supposed to be going to that meeting and reporting back to the Big C. Well, they're not doing anything. And so I believe they're going to put me in place to go and sit in on these meetings so that I can actually make sure that Sand Key is actually being taken care of. Because normally the county commission, they're going to move on whatever recommendations are made by the Tourist Development Council, and we need a voice there. So that's enough about beach nourishment. I don't think that I have anything else to discuss at this time, other than I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And for those that, if there's anyone still watching on their computers at home, thank you for attending. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Frank Bankard. And do I have a second?
Yeah, second, why not?
All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Good night, everyone.
Bring up the point here, Lloyd. You, me, Jody, the mayor were all ayes.